Hi everyone. We are going to learn about before after mappings and decorated with mapping as well. Sometimes we need to execute some custom logic before or after the mappings, and the Mapstruct library supports invoking a custom method either before or after mappings. All we need to do is annotate a void method with before or after mapping annotation. Before and after mapping annotated method would be called for each and every mapping that was defined inside the mapper. Let's check the current implementation. As part of the person mapper, as part of the mapper class, we have to create a new DTO and update an existing DTO. So here I set the null value property as ignore just for our convenience purpose. As part of the DTO, I have added two new properties. One is unknown, another one is full name. And remaining is as is, such as first name, last name, date of birth, salary. And if we check the person DB object, ID, first name, last name, date of birth, and salary. So the default mapping would be setting up the first name, last name, date of birth, and salary. And unknown and full names will be left alone. So let's check the current implementation. Now I'm at person mapper IMPL class for toDTO method. The person DTO object has been created and the respective property has been set and person DTO object has been returned. In case of the update, if the source property value is not null, then that has been set and returned from it. Now we are going to check the after mapping. So we are going to set some value after processing the mappings. If last name is not set, then I would like to put it as a default value as part of the after mapping annotation. Create a void method as after mapping and before mapping methods would be called for each and every mapping that was defined here. In this case, toDTO and update DTO, I would like to call after each mapping, and we need to pass two arguments to this method. One is the source object itself, and I would like to give a DTO where we are going to set the values. For Mapstruct, we need to instruct about the target mapping. So we are going to add mapping target. So with this annotation, the Mapstruct would know person DTO is the target object. As we discussed earlier, if DTO.get last name is null, then I would like to set last name as not available, and I would like to call this method for each and every mapping. So we need to annotate with after mapping. But as this is an interface, we need to provide a default keyword, or we need to convert this entire class as abstract class. So in our case, let's go with the interface itself, and I have added a default keyword. Let me save it. If you see the person mapper implementation for toDTO method, the after each mapping has been called before returning the DTO object, and in case of the update DTO, it's been called just before returning from the update method itself. So it's been passed both source and the target. With the source and the target, we can write our own custom logic to ensure our requirements are fulfilled. Now, like we called after mapping, we can also call before mapping as well. In case of the after mapping, so it's just called before returning the object. In case of before, we have the two places. One, before creating the person DTO object. Another one is after creating the person DTO object. How we are going to control it? That is being controlled using the number of arguments that we are passing. I have created a before mapping method, and we are going to write some logic over here, but let's see how it works now. Mapper IMPL has been regenerated, and if we see it, before each mapping has been called as a first statement before creating the person DTO, and even for the update also it's been called before setting any of the properties. So most of the cases will be having the both source and the target. So I have passed both source and the target is being annotated with mapping target. If we see the implementation, the before each method has been called just before setting up the any of the mappings and right after creating the person DTO. And in case of the update, it has been called just before the mappings. Now for this one, let's write a logic. If DTO.get unknown is null, then I would like to set unknown as unknown. And here is the test case. So one is for last name. So we are calling the last name and we are evaluating with NA. As part of the test case, we have not set the last name. So the last name would be set after mapping, and the unknown will be set as part of the before mapping. So I have written the assertion for the last name and the unknown. In case of the unknown, it's a not null, and in case of the last name, I'm expecting any. So let's run the test case. It's been success. So before and after methods has been called. So what about the update? So let's write the logic for that one also. I will be calling mapper that update the DTO and source. Now let's rerun the test case. Test has been passed, last name has been set, and unknown has been set. Can we create more than one before or after mapping methods? Yes, we can create. I'm duplicating the same logic here and I'm putting the name as 2. Now if we see the implementation, before each method is been called and the second method also been called. And what about the order? The order of the methods would be called in the same order that we have defined here. I'm moving the second method as a first one and the first method as a second one. Let's check the implementation. In the implementation, mapping 2 has been called first and then mapping. And it's exactly the same for the update detail as well. And it's the same even for after each. So let's create a method mapping after each mapping 2, and the implementation has come with mapping 2 as first and mapping as second. So let's clean up the code. Now there might be few scenarios where we need to write our own logic only to a particular method, not to all of them. So in case of the any common logic, that we can keep it as part of the before and after. If we need to implement our custom logic only to one of the methods which are part of the mapper, in that case we are going to use another feature of the Mapstruct which is decorated with. So for that we need to create a class which is implementing the person mapper. In this case, we are planning to implement only for the 2DTO. So we are going to create an abstract class which is implementing the person mapper interface. To save the time, I already created one abstract class which is implementing the person mapper, and I have overridden the 2DTO method. As part of the abstract class constructor, I'm person mapper itself as an argument. So and the variable name is delegate, and it is being used in our overridden method which is 2DTO method. So here I call the delegate.2DTO, which will be calling our person mapper IMPL. In this case, this 2DTO would be called, and after calling that, our custom logic will be triggered. So as part of our custom logic, I'm setting the full name with full name string builder. So the full name will be constructed using the first name and the last name. If our last name is null, then it is ignoring. If not null, then it's appending to a full name and it is returning. How are you going to notify the Mapstruct to use the person name decorator class as part of the mappings? So that's where we have the annotation called decorated with, and we need to pass a class for it. So in our case, the implementation class, which is a person name decorator class. Let's check the implementation. So as part of the implementation, now we have 3 different classes which are implementing the person mapper. One is person mapper decorator, which we have written, and another one is person mapper IMPL, and another one is person mapper IMPL underscore. These two are generated by the Mapstruct. Let's check the person mapper IMPL underscore first. So if we see the person mapper IMPL underscore implementation, it's exactly the same as earlier. There is no difference. It's checking the source, created a person DTO object, calling the before and setting up the mappings, and after that calling the after and returning the object. There is no difference. Now it comes the person mapper implementation. So as part of the person mapper IMPL, it's extending the person name decorator and implementing the person map. So here only one overridden method is there, which is update DTO, and the 2DTO is been taken from the person name decorator. Now as part of the person mapper IMPL, a delegate instance has been created, which is a person mapper itself, and the default constructor is calling a private constructor which is setting up the implementation of the person mapper. In our case, person mapper underscore, and the same is been assigned to the delegate, which is instance variable. Now when the 2DTO method is called, 2DTO method is not part of the person mapper IMPL, so the 2DTO method would be calling the method which is overridden at person name decorator. In this case, our custom logic. After calling the delegate.2DTO, which will be calling person mapper IMPL underscore class and 2DTO method as part of the IMPL underscore class, where our custom logic will be triggered and the object would be returned. So for this one, let's write a test case for it. I have written the integrated mapping test. So here I'm calling the mapper.toDTO with the source object, asset null get unknown, which is being set as part of the existing before each method. And the next one is get full name. The full name value will be set as part of the person name decorator, which is our custom logic, and it is composing full name with the help of first name and the last name would be set as NA if it is null as part of the after each mapping. In our case, last name is not there, so NA would be set. So I have written another assertion which is for the full name equals to, which is first name plus NA. So let's run the test case. And the test cases has been passed. The test cases for the both before after test and the decorated mapping test has been passed. So today we learned about before mapping, after mapping and decorated with. With the help of these VHs, we can customize our mappings as per our needs, either before or after the Mapstruct mappings. Thank you.